What does freedom mean to you? Does it mean the freedom to choose? The freedom to have a family and raise your kids according to your own values? What about living a wild, adventurous life, experimenting with music, relationships, or art? What does freedom really mean? What if freedom meant something that only a few Americans still understood? What if it meant that your choices and your values were set by you, rather than by some politician in a far-off capital? Some people think we're only free to choose to live exactly how they live, by their moral code, or their narrow worldviews. But if liberty means anything, it means that you, and you alone, have the power to exercise your rights to which the laws of nature and nature's God granted you. It's time to put these principles back into action. It's time to restore the American dream, activate in our communities, and take our country back. It's time to wake up, America. Here we go. It's 7:02. Good morning. It's Austin Petersen. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Glad to see you here. Happy to have you. Happy Thursday. First up on the show, Joe Biden announces he's tapping into the strategic petroleum reserves again to try to get gas prices down. Convenient timing before the midterms, wouldn't you say? And it's weird, though, considering that all the prevailing opinion amongst his followers are that high gas prices are both good and necessary to transition away from fossil fuels, right? We'll discuss that in a moment. And killing babies to fight inflation. I kid you not, that is not a joke. It is the stated aim of politicians like Stacy Abrams of Georgia, who in response to a question about inflation launched into a tirade on why mothers need to be able to kill their children. I will play this clip for you at 7:22. Fact check that. And at 7:30 this morning, our military has been rated weak for the first time ever by the Heritage Foundation. United States Marine Corps veteran Paul Curtman joins me at 7:30 this morning to talk about the implications and what he thinks we need to do to get back on track. At 7:50 a.m., the question of the day: what's something that you think people of the future will look back on today and say, well, that wasn't healthy? What is something that is normalized now, but in the future, people will definitely change their minds? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one. Send me a text, 573-319-1586. Something that is normalized today, but people in the future will definitely look back and say, well, that wasn't healthy at all. Yeah, again, text me, 573-319-1586. And at 8 a.m. this morning, Camellia Peterson, you know you love her, is going to be joining me on the program to discuss a new proposed rule in Missouri to require libraries to shield young people from inappropriate content. Is this a good idea to protect kids, or is it maybe clamping down on free speech? We'll talk about that. And at 8:20 this morning, simping ain't easy. I've got a photograph of men bowing down to crying women. And this photograph just got a hilarious reaction. Simping is not tolerated on this program, unless it's for me or for Elon Musk. We'll tolerate that. All that and more on the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. Yeah, thank you. Glad to see everybody here. All right, first, a little bit of house cleaning before we get started. It's an exciting week this week because as today I will be traveling to Washington, D.C. to be on Tim Pool's show tomorrow night. So if you haven't heard, I'll be on Tim Pool's podcast tomorrow night. And I'm not sure where Tim Pool is in terms of like one of the most, popular podcasts in the world. I think, is Joe Rogan perhaps. But I'm pretty sure Tim Pool is up there. So it's going to be a huge appearance, my second time on the show. And obviously it's a huge honor just to be asked. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity. However, so a little bit of bad news. That does mean that today's show will be cut a little bit short, which means that I'm going to have to end the show today at 8:30 a.m. instead of 9 a.m. when we usually end it. So a half an hour shorter. And that does mean that tomorrow will be not canceled. We will have a show tomorrow. I worked very hard the last couple of days to produce for you a best of program tomorrow morning. So you will get your regular content. You'll get 2 hours of show just like you typically do. And that will be broadcast tomorrow morning. So it won't be a live program, but you will get your regularly scheduled AP and some of the interviews. Maybe you haven't seen or heard them yet. So that will go up tomorrow morning at the usual time, 7 a.m. Central Time. Tomorrow morning, you will get a program. Now, typically, we have a plan where we have a different social network that we try and emphasize every day. And on Thursday, we usually go to the wakeupamericashow.com website, and I ask you to interact over there. However, because that interface is a little bit clunky, and I'm still working on it and kind of adjusting things for you, what I'd like to ask for you today is to just make today another YouTube day. So if you're watching us today and you'd like to support the show in a non-financial way, please go and join us over on YouTube at my account, youtube.com at AP for Liberty. And the thing with the YouTube support is that I'm trying to get as many watch hours as I can to try to get to monetization. We're over halfway there. I think we're at somewhere around 2,100 hours or something like that when it comes to on track. So you have to get 4,000 hours to get to monetization. We're at 2,232 public watch hours. So if you could join us over on YouTube today, that would be super great. Military weakness. Paul Curtman is texting me, asking me what the topic is going to be. Military weakness, Paul. Hopefully you're tuning in. So there you go. There's the updates for today. Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. All right. So Joe Biden announces that he's going to tap into the strategic petroleum reserves. And this has got to be maybe the second or third time that the Biden administration has done this in an attempt to curb gas prices. So Biden's going to release oil from the nation's reserves, 15 million barrels of oil. Announced yesterday. This is part of his effort to lower gas prices because of concerns over inflation are likely to hurt Democrats in congressional elections next month, which I found fascinating because yesterday when I was looking at the website instapundit.com from Glenn Reynolds, which is a great website if you haven't seen them before, and they posted all of these links to Democrats talking about how they actually want to have higher prices for gas. And I actually pulled those up as well. 15 million more barrels of oil is probably not even going to lower the gas prices all that much, because this is, the funny thing is that when you look at the stated policies of the Democrats in the past, I mean, they have celebrated high gas prices. They have celebrated fossil fuels being as high as $8 an hour. Yes. So the joy of $8 gasoline from the New York Times. Peter Ducey has been blowing him up in the White House. Biden's spokeswoman was asked, how is the administration trying to put oil companies out of business? Remember, Joe Biden said he will end fossil fuels. Let's see if we can pull that up, and we'll go over to Twitter weirdness, and I'll pull up this Twitter clip. Let's take a look on this, because you'll have to remember Joe Biden, when he campaigned on a promise that he would end fossil fuels. Let's pull up this clip and take a listen to his spokesman, Karine Jean-Pierre.
Asking oil companies to further lower gas prices. What makes you think that they are going to listen to an administration that is ultimately trying to put them out of business?
How is the administration trying to put them out of business?
No more drilling on federal lands, no more drilling, including offshore, no ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period.
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated. I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuel.
What about, say, stopping fracking and stopping new pipeline infrastructure? And
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
No new fracking. We are going to get rid of fossil fuels. Have a transition from the oil industry, yes.
Really? If you're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show, we're talking about Joe Biden tapping into the strategic petroleum reserves after years of stated policy saying that they would destroy the fossil fuel companies. And there it is. I mean, from their own mouths. And here's the thing. You know why Joe Biden did that. You know why he said that. You know why Kamala Harris said that at the time. They were campaigning, baby. They were trying to get in office. They will say anything to get elected. The sad part is that they think that that's what they have to say to get elected. But here's the thing. They're right. They're right. You don't get elected by going on TV and saying, I'm going to support oil companies. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to support big oil. We're going to tap into our strategic petroleum reserves and all that kind of stuff. I mean, is there a constituency for that? Sure. Drill, baby, drill. Yeah, there's people out there who think that we definitely need to be stepping up domestic oil production. But those people didn't win the last election. Or maybe they did and it was stolen. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Good morning, Terry Miller, Adam Armstrong, Camellia Peterson, and Doug H. Glad to have you over there on the live stream. We appreciate all of our listeners checking in this morning and helping us out to support the show. Let's see now. I had the joy of $4 gas. There we go. Let's see. Let's pull this up. The joy. Yeah, exactly. Here we go. Why are Democrats dancing for joy about sky-high gas prices? Democrats have long openly worked to raise the price of fossil fuel energy, and they've done this by proposing carbon taxes, cap and trade schemes, higher leasing fees, and other measures to jack up costs so people burn less of it. Yeah, they want the price of gas down now because not only are we heading into midterms, but I mean, we're looking at a real severe winter of our discontent situation. Little Shakespeare reference for you out there for the literary nerds. But remember, Barack Obama actually said very plainly and openly that he is going to skyrocket the price of gas. I'm pulling this up from 2008. President Barack Obama, 2008, says that his cap and trade scheme would necessarily skyrocket the price of oil. Biden gets the high prices of gas that he promised. His plan to cancel the Keystone Pipeline was successful. I mean, it was definitely a bad deal for America and the United States. Biden pulled offshore lease sales, curbing new drilling. That was from the Washington Post on May 12th. And of course, that LA Times article that just really ticked me off from 2008, the joy of $8 gas. And $8 gas, think about that. That really means that only the wealthiest people will be able to drive. Only the very ultra rich would be able to drive vehicles or fly their planes around the world. Energy costs will necessarily skyrocket. That's the Barack Obama quote from, again, 2008. What do you think about this? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. I've got another Peter Doocy Smackdown clip on this topic. Let's head over to our Twitter weirdness and take a look at Peter Doocy from Fox News just laying it on the line. Take a listen.
Thanks, Kareem. Following up on something Steve was asking, what is President Biden's top domestic priority now? Is it inflation or is it abortion?
The president's going to continue to talk about issues that matter to the American people. And abortion is one of them. Majority of the American people disagree with the decision that the Supreme Court made, the Dobbs decision. That is a majority of the people disagreed with that. When it comes to the economy, the president has made it very, very clear. When it comes to inflation, it is his number one economic priority, and he is doing everything that he can to make sure that we lower prices for the American people.
It's his number one economic priority. We've heard the president say inflation is his top domestic priority, but now he's saying come next year, his first bill would be abortion related. So
do not come. Sorry, I had to. Thank you. Yes.
Is his number one domestic priority abortion or is it inflation?
Well, let's not forget what the president has done the last 19 months. He has made the economy his top priority. He's passed the American Rescue Plan. By the way, as you heard me say all the time, no Republicans voted for that in Congress. And it was a plan that helped us get back on our feet with the economy, that helped us gain or create 10 million jobs that we had lost. It also put money in people's pockets. It also makes sure that businesses were able to open up. Schools were able to open up. People were able to go back into their homes.
Weird. Wrong. I'm sorry, but that is not an acceptable answer. Oh, God. It's going to be a great show today. We've got great guests. Paul Curtman is going to join me at 7:30 this morning. Talk about the U.S. military being rated as weak. Not good. Yes. But coming up next at 7:22, Stacy Abrams has a plan to fight inflation, and it is kill babies. I couldn't make this stuff up. Facebook, just try and fact check that. We'll be back with more on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today. Fire.
Your printing company stinks. They charge you too much money and they don't love America enough. We've got the solution. Patriot Printing USA. Whether you're running for office, saving souls, or just need business cards that will get you the new job you've been looking for, Patriot Printing USA has got you covered with the best prices around. Palm cards, brochures, bumper stickers, door hangers, you name it, we've got it. PatriotPrintingUSA.com. That's PatriotPrintingUSA.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Displayed proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning. How you doing? It's 7:21 and I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen at wakeupamerica.show.com. Well, I'm glad you're all in such a good mood this morning. Oh, lovely to see your smiling, bright, and beautiful faces. Oh, yes, here you are. Today is YouTube Thursday. I'm asking all of our listeners and followers who are watching us live right now, join us over on YouTube today, doing everything we can to try and grow each social network. We have a different social network each day. Mondays and Thursdays, I think, are going to be our YouTube days. So if you wouldn't mind joining us over there, I'd be super grateful. If not, feel free to watch us on any other platform. We're on Facebook, as well as on Twitter and on Twitch, and on a bunch of other ones. No Rumble today, but that's just because of a feature, a little bit of a technical issue when I have to set up my shows when I'm out of town. So tomorrow will be a pre-recorded show. I can't set up more than one live stream with Rumble. It's kind of a pain in the butt. So anyways, we're not on Rumble today. My bad. You can text in at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Georgia Democratic gubernatorial candidate Stacy Abrams said Wednesday on MSNBC's Morning Joe that abortion is an economic issue because having children is why you're worried about gas and food prices. Take a listen.
I would assume, maybe incorrectly, but while abortion is an issue, it nowhere reaches the level of interest of voters in terms of the cost of gas, food, bread, milk, things like that. What could you do as governor to alleviate the...
Pause. Now, if that voice sounds familiar to you, sorry to go on a little tangent here real quick. If that voice sounds familiar, what would you do about Aleppo? It's because that's the guy that asked that question to Gary Johnson. That's the anchor. What would you do about Aleppo? I'm having Vietnam era flashbacks right here from this. So when I hear him asking this question like this, what would you do about Aleppo? This is that guy who asked that question. You know what I'm talking about right here, right? Triggered. Sorry. Continue.
Food, bread, milk, things like that. What could you do as governor to alleviate the concerns of Georgia voters about those livability, daily, hourly issues that they're confronted with?
But let's be clear. Having children is why you're worried about your price for gas. It's why you're concerned about how much food costs. For women, this is not a reductive issue. You can't divorce being forced to carry an unwanted pregnancy from the economic realities of having a child. And so it's important for us to have both and conversations. We don't have the luxury of...
Pause for just a moment. Chris Morrill, what the hell is wrong with you, Chris? Over on the live stream on YouTube, he says, ironically, abortion really is the solution to everything. From a certain point of view, you can't be miserable if you are never born. My God, man.
Hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on, boy. Get your goddamn ugly ass on.
Chris,
How dare you?
You're disgusting.
Of reducing it or separating them out. But we also have to talk about what a governor can do.
I would assume...
So, what is Aleppo? You can text the show at 573-319-1586. They are obsessed. The left is obsessed with killing babies. This is why the red wave is coming. Well, in reference to abortion, I think that may not be the best reference. But I mean, this is why Republicans are going to win this fall, because the Democrats are obsessed. And yes, obviously, abortion is a heinous moral evil and must be resisted. But I mean, even from a practical, tactical point of view, when we're going into the winter and gas prices are as high as they are and people can't afford propane and people can't afford, to put food on their tables, and that the Democrats are so obsessed with this issue, I mean, this is how you know they're going to lose. And I mean, I guess we ought to just encourage it. We ought to just say, hey, go ahead, keep talking about killing babies. We ought to, I guess we ought to just, let them go, don't interrupt your enemy when they're making mistakes. Sun Tzu, classic Sun Tzu strategy. One listener texted in this morning at 573-319-1586, says, single parents, not healthy. Can you be more specific? I'd love to hear what you're talking about. You can text us again at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. All right, let's get back to our regularly scheduled program. So I don't know if you all are interested in this one or not, and you could tell me yes or no, up or down, what you think about this. But I saw this story, and for some reason, it just captured my attention. Do you see these new Happy Meals? Talk about the infantilization of adults. Do you see these new Happy Meals that they're giving away at McDonald's, that they're adult Happy Meals? I mean, this is how you know that the culture really is going downhill. McDonald's limited edition Happy Meal toys are listed for as much as 300,000 big ones. Yes, $300,000 over at on eBay. I'm not kidding. Listen to this. McDonald's recently released Happy Meal was designed to engender feelings of nostalgia among its older customers. Maybe these feelings of nostalgia are coming because we just absolutely hate our lives. Everybody's in like Chris Moral mode, like total nihilism these days. So the only joy that we can get is experiencing a little bit of our childhood before we were all miserable on the internet. When we all were just happy and eating our toys from the little buckets. Resellers are taking advantage of McDonald's limited time collaboration with streetwear company Cactus Plant Flea Market to try to make a quick buck. Toys from the Big Mac combo meal are popping up on resale sites and fetching thousands of dollars. One seller on eBay. Doesn't this remind you a little bit of the Beanie Baby craze? I remember the moment that the Beanie Baby craze that I knew that it was over. And as a kid, when I didn't know economics, but I could just feel it. Once the Beanie Baby toys got to once the Beanie Baby toys were in McDonald's Happy Meals, that's when even as a kid, I was like, wow, this is going to be like the tulip bubble craze of the 1621 in Holland. No, I didn't know what the tulip bubble craze of 1621 in Holland was, but I did have a feeling. I was like, oh man, I never collected Beanie Babies. My wife totally did, and apparently she still has those in a box somewhere up in Michigan, and she's not bringing those things back home. Or she can. It's up to her. I don't care. One seller on eBay listed a trio of unopened toys, Grimace, the Hamburglar, and Birdie, for a whopping $300,000. Will sell fast, the seller added on their six-figure listing. Another seller is asking for $25,000 for an unopened Happy Meal toy. But here's what the hilarious part is about this, is that the winning bidder also has to cover the $6.10 in shipping fees. Yeah, can you imagine? Can you imagine? It feels like you're getting rickrolled or something like that. You're buying a $25,000 unopened toy, right? That costs like 50 cents to make, and you're getting asked to pay the $6 in shipping fees. At that point, I would think that you would just offer free shipping. No. What is going on? All right. So what's something that's deemed healthy today, normalized today, that in the future we're going to look back and say that wasn't healthy? Probably something like this, right? It's the question of the day. Send me your answer, 573-319-1586. Coming up next at 7:30, we're going to talk to Paul Curtman. The U.S. military was rated as weak for the first time ever in American history. Would we win a war if we did have to go to war with Russia? God forbid. We'll talk about all that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Wife. I want to thank you all for watching the Wake Up America Show with Austin Petersen. This show has been a huge venture for our family, so we would love it if you could join us.
I believe in liberty, and I believe in Austin's ability to spread the ideas of liberty. Do you?
I want to ask you today to join Petersen's Patriots with a pledge of $17.76 a month. Help us to stay cancel-proof so we can spread the message of limited government across the country. I joined Petersen's Patriots myself, just in a little different way. Visit wakeupamericashow.com/support and make your pledge today.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
Speaker Pelosi's husband, Paul, made a big investment in chips just before Congress votes on a bill that would give $52 billion in subsidies and tax credits to the chip industry.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information he received from you?
No.
And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back. Do not come. Do not come.
Have you ever received a royalty payment from a company that you later oversaw money going to that company?
You know, I don't know as a fact, but I doubt it.
Well, here's the thing is, why don't you let us know?
Good morning at 7:34, and you're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. It's time to rise and freedom. Is the U.S. military prepared for another war? Well, we all hope and pray to God that it's not going to happen, but if it does, are we ready? Well, a new report that came out on Pentagon readiness says that America, if it's faced with a conflict with another first world power like China or Russia, may not be able to win the fight. Let's talk to a U.S. Marine Corps veteran and former Missouri State Representative about that. His name is Paul Curtman, and he's a good friend of the show. He's joining us right now, live and on camera. Good morning, Paul. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, Austin. Really good to be with you. I saw that report that you're talking about. It's a little concerning, to say the least.
For sure. And, we kind of have been joking about some of the ads that have been coming out of, recruitment ads for the military, things like, showing, the diversity of the troops here in the United States, contrasting that with some of the advertisements that have been coming out of Russia, where they're showing them like kicking ass and taking names. And it's sort of been a bit of a punchline. But now we actually have a little bit of hard data that shows that, our instincts might actually not be too far off the mark. Is the U.S. military ready if we are ever in another first world conflict? If we went to war today, would we be ready, Paul?
Judging by what the report said, the report from the Heritage Foundation, now I want to be very clear. They focused in on three particular topics. The first one was defense of the homeland. The second one was the successful conclusion of a war. Now, the Heritage Foundation's only been doing this for 9 years. And of course, over the last 9 years, we were in the middle of a war that was actually lasting about 20 years. And we didn't conclude it just up until President Biden's administration, although it had been in the works for a while. Then the third one, and this one's the one that's really kind of concerning, is they measured our preservation of the freedom of our movement. In other words, are we able to send our warships wherever we want to send our warships? Are we able to have free reign over the seas and go wherever we want to go? Or do we have accessibility to other continents? Or do we have good relationships with other countries? And that's been falling. And so you take, for example, what China's been doing in the sea just off their coastal perimeter, building up islands, putting guns on these islands, putting airstrips on these islands, putting harbors for their warships on these islands, obviously limiting our ability to access the sea around that area. So that's just one illustration that would clearly indicate that we're not quite as ready as we used to be, because we didn't do anything to mitigate that. We talked about it, we put it in headlines, but we didn't actually do anything. But then to bring up the point that you just mentioned, there's a lot of wokeness in the U.S. military right now. And I've still got friends that are in, I have friends that are serving. They're, they've been in now since I was in, early in the 2000s, late 1999. So they've been in now for over 20 years. And they've commented to me about the wokeness in the military. Some of them have said it's not as bad as you think. However, I want to draw attention to the fact that in the military, when I was in, and I was in the infantry, okay, so my job was to go in, locate and close with and destroy the enemy, okay? It was all about combat, all about killing the bad guys. And there's two priorities. The first one is mission accomplishment, and the second one is morale. And so in a time where we're engaged in war on multiple fronts already, this war on terror that continues to move throughout the globe, even if we don't see it in the news as much, it's still out there. We're not focusing on we're not focusing on mission accomplishment as much as we're focusing on morale. And the morale, which is the second priority in terms of troop readiness, it's not as morale boosting as most people would like to think. The woke ideology, the woke push, the woke culture, it's a very much has a lot more to do with bullying than it does making everybody feel good about the mission that they're engaged in. And so I think when you kind of begin to pull all these things together, it doesn't exist beyond the pale of our imagination to suspect that our military might not be as ready as we were 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years ago.
If you're just tuning into the show, we're speaking to former Missouri State Representative and U.S. Marine Corps veteran Paul Curtman. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. Now, Paul, when it comes to readiness, I think that most people are looking at the possibility of a conflict with Russia, but the word on the street is that a conflict like that could go nuclear. Is the United States military prepared for that kind of a conflict? Because that seems to me to be the kind of thing that could stretch as far as the home front, although I hear people saying, oh, well, it would only be tactical nukes and only in Europe. But the possibility exists for those kinds of weapons to strike American soil.
Yeah, and I've heard people say that too. Well, it would only be tactical nuclear weapons. That is insane that anybody is somehow feeling okay that, well, it's only tactical nuclear weapons. That's all we're talking about. Well, tactical nuclear weapons is still nuclear weapons. And if I was talking to one military analyst not too long ago, and this was in a public interview, and I asked him, I said, if we go nuclear, I said, how far is that going to go? And his response was, oh, it won't go beyond the first bomb. And I tend to disagree. I don't think one nuclear bomb goes off. If Russia launches a tactical nuclear weapon, I believe we're going to see other countries begin to mobilize and launch their tactical nuclear weapons or worse. And this is exactly what was driving the Cold War to remain a Cold War. We did not want anybody dropping a nuclear weapon because we understood the domino effect that we referred to as the doctrine of mutually assured destruction. The acronym for that, ironically named MAD, right? M-A-D. It would be mad to be dropping a nuclear bomb. We just had Russia on their way to the Arctic shelf, right? Because people were expecting, and I'm not sure if they did this yet, for them to test their nuclear weapon, a tactical nuclear weapon that would create a tsunami that would begin to wipe out coastal cities. I think it is absolutely crazy that anybody would begin to mitigate how dangerous this actually is by saying, oh, well, it would only be a tactical nuclear weapon. The fact is this: Vladimir Putin is not a public servant. This guy's not just doing the best that he can for Russia. He's not going to retire and have a bridge named after him and then move out to the mountains of Siberia and wrestle bears for the rest of his life, right? This guy is Russia. This guy believes he is Russia. His legacy, everything about him is wrapped up in the future of Russia. He wants statues of himself in Moscow Square. That's what he wants. And he is in a position right now where he's probably nearing maybe his latter years of his life. And there's rumors out there that he's suffering from some sickness. That even further complicates things and how things could get out of hand so quickly. So I think it's incredibly important that the U.S. military be prepared for this. Leave the woke ideology alone. Leave the race baiting alone. Nobody needs to know about who's an oppressor and who's oppressed, because we can get our eyes on that if we want, but none of that's going to matter at all if we wind up in the middle of a nuclear conflict that kind of took us by surprise because people weren't planning and weren't putting ourselves in a realistic expectation of what could actually happen.
This is an incredible point of view. You're hearing Paul Curtman right now. He is a former Missouri State representative. He is also a U.S. Marine Corps veteran. Paul, do you think what would it take to get Vladimir Putin to do it? Because it seems like that, the European Union and the United States are just escalating this conflict. I mean, at what point, if Russia doesn't achieve their goals, do you think that Vladimir Putin does this? Because, it's hard to tell exactly what Putin wants. You can't take him at his word. I mean, he says that he just wants, the Donbass region and things like that. But, maybe he wants all of Ukraine. If he doesn't get it, do you think that, he's going to feel like he needs to use these kinds of weapons? Or, what would the United States do that he would say to himself, okay, it's time for me to do this? I mean, do you think that we are on the brink?
We could be. Now, in the U.S., whenever we've had a commander-in-chief, and Trump was kind of famous for this from time to time, right? But this was also his strategy. He would talk tough. But from time to time, he would also begin to walk back some things that he said, or other people in the administration under Joe Biden. Joe Biden has said things before, and people in the administration, and whether it's a gaffe, it probably is. I don't think Joe Biden is entirely coherent and aware of the situation and exactly how he should be responding as the commander-in-chief. But he has said things on a number of occasions in which the people in the cabinet had to walk it back. They're trying to walk it back. That's not what's happening in Russia. When Putin says anything about tactical nuclear weapons or nuclear weapons otherwise, you see other members of his government reinforcing what Vladimir Putin is saying. You see people say, yes, this is on the table. These NATO countries ought to be quiet. They better be careful because this is all on the table. So they all kind of seem to be in unison about this. So is this a real possibility? Yeah, I think it's a real possibility. I still think it's unlikely, but it is a real possibility, and it's becoming even more likely every day, it seems.
If you're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show, we're talking to Paul Curtman about military readiness here in the United States and the possibility of an escalation of conflict between the United States and Russia. We'd love to hear your point of view. 573-319-1586. So, Paul, I mean, what's the solution to this? I mean, we're going into midterms this fall. I mean, is there any opportunity for hope or change? Because it just seems as if the military is on this kind of descending track. It's hard to kind of turn that ship around once it started in one direction. I mean, just electing a new commander in chief, is that enough to turn it around, would you say?
Yeah, I think it is enough to turn it around. I also think that if Congress will start doing their jobs, this has been a big problem with Republicans, not just for me, but with most people, anybody who's leaning conservative or leaning libertarian. The reason people leave the Republican Party is because Republicans don't do what they say they're going to do. So for all this big talk that you have these candidates saying during their campaigns and talking about the wokeness in the military or otherwise talking about inflation, you name it. I mean, you throw a rock. Lois Lerner targeting conservatives when she was leading up the IRS. You look at Fast and Furious. All we've ever seen Republicans do is just talk big, right? They want their likes and shares on hashtag. Politicians have become a brand just as much as any profit-making corporation has become a brand, okay? But what we need to see them do is start actually being what our founding fathers suggested. They be jealous of their authority. And if they would become jealous of their authority, Congress would be able to rein in inflation because they would start assuming the responsibility for the value of our money, but they would also start becoming responsible for our budget. And all you have to do to make the woke ideology in the U.S. military go away is stop sending them money for it. That's all you have to do. So if the Republicans could take the House and they decided that they were going to take the responsibility seriously, they could fix this really through the purse strings if they wanted to. I just kind of doubt that they will because they seem to be addicted to blind spending just as much as any politicians have, in the last 200 years.
Well, you said it best. That's Paul Curtman, a former Missouri State representative, as well as a U.S. Marine Corps veteran. Paul, where can people find out more about you and your work?
Yeah, People can find me at www.paulcurtman.com. They can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Paul Curtman, PaulCurtman. And of course, I work as I own an investment advisory firm. And if anybody wants to find me there, that's at prcurtman.com.
Paul, you've also got your own talk show, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for bringing that up. News Talk STL in St. Louis on 101.9 and 94.1 in the St. Louis region, and streaming online at www.newstalkstl.com.
Paul, we're super grateful for your time and for your expertise. A great interview, and definitely he's got a great show out there, which you should check out. Thanks for your time, Paul.
All right. Thanks, Austin.
Thank you. What did you think of Paul Curtman? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. Good stuff. Great insight. Again, you really don't get these kinds of interviews and that kind of sharp insight anywhere else, other than maybe Paul Curtman's show. So what you do is you listen to the Wake Up America show on the weekdays, and then on the weekends, you listen to Paul Curtman, right? Right. All right. When we get back, things that are normalized today that we're going to look back on and say, that wasn't healthy. Okay. What's something that is currently deemed normal today, but in the future, we're going to be like, that wasn't very good. That was a bad idea. We shouldn't be doing this. Let's hear from you. Send me a text, 573-319-1586. And we'll be back with more on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I enlisted as a medic to be there to help my patients, and after an injury, I found myself as a patient. I experienced post-traumatic seizures. Depression is a big one that comes along with it, PTSD. So I pursued my PhD in neuroscience and regenerative medicine. The coalition has helped fund my academic pursuits. They genuinely care about helping the vet in whatever way that they can. Through supporting the coalition, you're supporting some of the veterans that have the biggest needs.
Visit saluteheroes.org to learn more.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun. Thank you very much.
Enough yet? Do facts no longer matter? Are lies to be encouraged instead of punished? This is not our inheritance. If truth no longer matters, we will not remain free for long. This is our generation's challenge, to defend our founders' hope that we the people could self-govern if we defend our right to get the facts. And right now, we're building the only defense of free people have. The facts on every politician, every position they held, every statement they've made, every vote they've made, and any cash they've taken. It's the real history on those now pandering for your vote. There are hundreds of young people building our defense right now, and they need your help. We all have our passions, but as our ancestors knew, when events become so foul they threaten us all, we must stand and defend each other. Please, have our backs. Join us at votesmart.org.
What
would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? You can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Halloween is coming. The festival of Samhain approaches, and your lazy butt doesn't have a Halloween costume yet? How can you pledge allegiance to the Dark Lord this year and possibly offend everyone at the same time? Visit the AP for Liberty shop and get your shirt today. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. So grab your government is scary tea and tell everyone at the party that you're here to help. Other great seasonal items are available as well, so don't miss out. Then visit AP for Liberty shop today. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. Glad to have you here. Thanks for joining us. What's something that's normalized today in the modern age, something that we are normalizing that we're going to look back on and say, this is not deemed to be healthy? Now, people have been sharing things online. This all started with a Reddit thread when somebody asked last Friday, what's something people think that is healthy today that future people will shake their heads at? Good morning, I'm Austin Petersen. We're glad to have you here watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. It's YouTube Thursday, if you would mind. Join us over on YouTube today at youtube.com/AP for Liberty. That's AP, the number 4. AP for Liberty. We'd love to hear from you on this one. I think some of these answers will be quite obvious, but I will be curious to find out what you think about it. Our buddy over on YouTube, Tony Allegra, this morning, he says that transing our kids, that's what he thinks is something. It seems pretty obvious. You can send us a text and let us know what you think. 573-319-1586. Love to hear from you. Good morning to my beautiful wife, Stephanie, who is joining us this morning. Don't forget, the show is going to end a little bit early today so that I can catch a flight. So the show ends today at 8:30 this morning, but we still got lots of great programming to go. Camellia Peterson will be joining us this morning at 8 o'clock to talk about Missouri, a new rule proposed in Missouri that will require libraries to shield young people from inappropriate content. We'll talk about that and whether that's a free speech issue or whether it's censorship. We will discuss. It should be lovely. Yes, I'm excited to see Camellia too. Number one example that people say that is normal today that will be considered unhealthy in the future. Pretty obvious. I think most of us would agree, even though we're all on it right now, aren't we? Social media, right? Somebody says, I'm being super hypocritical, but we're going to look back on social media today the same way. Excuse me. I hope I don't get the hiccups here. That would suck. No, please.
How dare you?
Yes, thank you, Greta. We're going to look back on social media today the same way our parents look back on this time on the time that they smoked and say, yeah, everybody smoked back then. It really wasn't a big deal. I'm not sure. Social media, do you think that could be compared to smoking? You think that those two are as unhealthy as one another? I'm not sure. Send me a text, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. If you're wondering why I'm laughing right now, I just shared this story over on Twitter at AP for Liberty. A woman got charged and accused of freeing a swarm of bees on cops. It's hilarious too because the photograph, and I tell you what, I'll be nice to you. And if you're watching us live right now, I'll go ahead and pull it up over on the Twitter weirdness right now. Let's go ahead and transition so you could see this. This woman's getting arrested. She's being taken out in handcuffs by the cops. Check this out. This is hilarious. So this woman got arrested. She released a swarm of bees. Bees! They're stinging my flesh off. What was that Tommy Boy quote? I can't remember. And then I'm laughing because as I'm scrolling down here from Workaholics, somebody posted the GIF, bitch better have my honey. Yeah, a woman got charged and was accused of freeing a swarm of bees on deputies. Bees, they're ripping my flesh off. Oh, God, your firearms are powerless against them. All right, Austin, so let's get back to the topic at hand. 573-319-1586. What's something that's normalized today that we will look back on and we will say that definitely was not healthy? Love to hear from you on this topic. Social media was the first biggest response that a lot of people said. But number two, the amount of our lives that we share with strangers online, thinking that we're anonymous. Yeah, here's the thing. Once you're dead in the future, like 100 years from now, 200 years from now, 300 years from now, there are going to be Internet Archive projects. And people who thought that what they were posting online was anonymous are going to be proven so wrong, because you may be dead by the time they find out who you were. But if you thought you had an anonymous account and you were posting things like "gas the Jews" or posting things that you thought were funny or ironic, or maybe you had some extreme views that you wanted to keep your identity hidden for whatever reason, eventually people are going to find out who you were. Now, again, maybe it won't matter. Maybe it'll be when you're dead, or maybe it will be at an inopportune time and you might get canceled. But there really is no such thing as anonymity online. But it'll probably be seen in the future as not healthy to share as much as we do online. But privacy really is dead. I wish it wasn't, but I think it is. The third thing that people say is unhealthy, that we're going to look back on and say is unhealthy, that is normalized today, are supplements. And you know what? I actually kind of got a rude awakening on that myself lately. Here I am, probably going to share too much. I'm going to do something unhealthy. But my doctor was like thinking about calling me in for an MRI, because when they did like a blood, like I do like a 6 month to a yearly blood draw, they're doing a blood test on me, and they were like, you had some really abnormally high levels of, I'm not sure what it is, biotin, or it's whatever's in like a daily vitamin. I was taking this, multivitamin, and one of the things that's in this multivitamin is really bad for you, and it like caused my charts to spike all over the place. And I can't remember what it is off of the top of my head. Maybe it's because of the multivitamin, but supplements, I quit it because the doctor's like, you shouldn't do that. It's not good for you. These supplements are billed as like health pills, but it's probably not a good idea. Typically you should get your vitamins from eating healthy, right? So anyways, it was kind of a wake up call for me on these supplements and these multivitamins. A lot of people take them and they might not actually be that good for you. You should probably talk to your doctor, of course, but still probably dangerous. All right, so I'm going to go to break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Camellia Peterson. We'll talk to her about that story about Missouri libraries being required to shield young people from, well, you're going to say pornography, but I mean, who knows what the libraries are going to actually get rid of, like Huckleberry Finn, right? Black Like Me, controversial books. We'll talk about all that and more when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Didi's website, and I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake, yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes, you like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bush. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bush blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
any real-world experience.
It's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
I've got two political news stories for you that you might not have heard about yet because mainstream media was too busy covering clickbait and hate porn. First up, New York City's Metropolitan Transportation Authority became the most recent U.S. city to contract with Cubic Corporation for their tap-to-pay technology in their public transit systems. But here's the thing. Cubic Corporation is also a longtime contractor with the United States military. In fact, one of the corporation's subsidiaries specializes in and supplies counterintelligence and cybersecurity software to government agencies. Since the early 1990s, the American government has awarded billions of dollars to this company in military contracts, and one of its biggest contracts came in 2020, when the Pentagon awarded nearly $200 million for work on training systems, and over half of that money was sent to foreign military sales in places including Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Singapore. Story number 2. According to a policy update obtained by reporters, the Army has allowed dogs, cats, primates, and marine animals to be shot for research. But first, a little background on this one. In 1983, a whistleblower revealed a Pentagon plan to purchase dogs from an animal shelter, in addition to using other animals like pigs and goats, and shoot them with military weapons so that doctors in training could study their wounds. The veterinarian in charge of the animals at the time said that doctors should be, quote, introduced to wound care here, rather than during the first wave of casualties off the battlefield. Since those reports went public in 1983, there has been a ban on using dogs and cats in wound care labs. The policy update reported on in recent weeks says that although it may be prohibited to wound dogs, cats, primates, and marine animals for training purposes, it may be permissible to wound them for research, development, and evaluation. The Army has subsequently denied a public information request for more details about this particular medical research practice, citing national security and foreign policy.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. It's Austin Petersen, and you're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Missouri libraries that receive state funding will be required to develop and implement measures to shield young readers from, quote, non-age appropriate content under a new rule submitted this week by Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft. This rule was proposed on Monday, and it would withhold state dollars from libraries that do not certify in writing that they will adopt policies to address how, quote, appropriate book selections are made for readers under 18. Joining me now to discuss that is a very rare Camellia Peterson. We are of no relation right now. Good morning, CJ. Thanks so much for joining us on the Wake Up America Show, per usual.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing good. Were you surprised to see the Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft proposing this rule? Kind of felt like it came out of nowhere a little bit, right?
I was, and it was fascinating. And I have to say, first of all, when everybody thinks of the Secretary of State, what do you think of?
John Ashcroft? No, I mean...
Well, I mean, when you think of the position of Secretary of State, everybody's like, elections, right?
Yeah.
Like, when I thought about this, I was like, I didn't even know this was within his purview, I guess. And I got to look and I was like, oh, how about that Secretary of State's office is also responsible for the state library and has oversight over library. And so I just, knowledge gap on my part. I was not previously aware of that. Maybe other people were not either. So I thought this was a really novel approach to it. I think it's a good idea. And, when I was reading through the statement that they released for it on their site, I really like that he emphasized that this puts local control back into place. It emphasizes local control, and that parents, local libraries should be responsible to their local citizens. And yeah, so essentially, the library will have to establish a policy, and they will have to put that in writing. I think it has to be submitted to the state librarian. Also, I didn't know there was a state librarian. Now I know. But they have to put a policy in writing, and then they also would be required to honor a parent's decision as to what material their child has access to. And I think this is really important. Parents would have the right to challenge a library's age-appropriate designation for any material. This is something that we've been seeing all over, and the left is kind of like, oh, conservatives and Republicans are wanting to ban books and all of these things. And really, what is being asked most of the time is that these materials are put into age-appropriate sections that parents may not let their children just have free reign. And you take your kid to the library and you take him to the children's section, and you let them have the run of the area because you think that everything should be okay. And I will tell you, our friend Jamie Marie Pope down in Louisiana has been dealing with this issue in her area. And she would send me, because they had this issue, the same issue, with where they were going to put it in the library. She sent me pictures from these books, and I've been hearing it's probably the same book. Here in Missouri, people describe this. And yes, they're cartoon illustrations, and they're also available for like kids 10 and up, which is crazy, but they are very explicit of every sexual act that you could think of all types. And it just is, and I can't imagine that anybody would argue that those things are appropriate for a 10-year-old.
No kidding. But I mean, I guess, why would somebody, let's try, Camellia, let's try and put our, our shoes on the other foot here. Let's try and walk a mile in their shoes. Why would someone, do you think, in the most generous possible way, what do you think would be the motivation for someone to want to do something like that? If you were being generous, if you were being kind, if you were giving them the benefit of the doubt, why would people want to give children access to that kind of material? It's not easy, is it? Yeah.
Well, if I'm being extraordinarily generous and giving someone the benefit of the doubt, it would assume that I would need to agree with their premise that when children are confused and conflicted about their sexuality, and then they're in that transition time, that maybe they need to learn that they're not alone in that, and maybe have more information about it. I don't know.
Well, imagine,
you have to...
but imagine that. Like again, I like to play devil's advocate, right? Because this makes it more interesting, right? We can always just regurgitate the opinions that we know our audience wants to hear, or we could make it more interesting and add a little conflict here and say, what if you do have that whole situation where, let's say your parents are Mike Pence and they're going to hook up electroshock, they're going to hook car batteries up to your nipples if they find out that you're having questions about your sexuality, and you got to go somewhere where you can ask questions in a safe environment about what's going on and why you're having these thoughts or why you're feeling like this, right? It might be a good option for those people, because I don't agree with California, what they're doing in terms of making California a sanctuary state for young kids to flee to and stuff like that, and their parents not having any knowledge. But I mean, you and I, we grew up in Missouri, Camellia. There are a lot of backwards people around here that are very, very authoritarian when it comes to these social issues, that, if they have a kid that they think might even have one single thought about, a man walks by and the boy's gaze lingers too long, they're going to hook him up to a car battery and start shocking him. You know what I mean? So it's like, your generous interpretation might not be, too far off the mark.
Sure. And I think this is, when we talk about trade-offs all the time, I think this is one of those trade-offs, and this idea that there are no perfect solutions. And when you are, again, this is kind of an argument against publicly funded libraries, because
so I'm glad you made the point. Defund the public libraries. Issue number 1 for libertarians is to defund the libraries. Yes.
I'm just saying, there will always I was talking with somebody about this the other day. There will always be this push and pull, this tug by, like, my rights are being violated by not having this included. No, your rights are to be, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's going to have a different opinion of what should be allowed. And the thing is in an interview, Ashcroft said that this rule proposal kind of came about as a result of a discussion he had at a library directors meeting. And he said that he used that hyperbole and said, look, you don't have to have something for everyone. You don't have books on how to be a child molester for convicted child molesters in your library. And he said he had a library director that said, that's because they won't publish them. And they were serious. I mean, we have to have some kind of line.
Oh, I guess you're right. What do you think about this? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. The Bomb Doctor over on YouTube says that's not authoritarian. That's just parenting. Al Johnson over on YouTube says, there goes Judy Bloom. I mean, there were plenty of kids' books, Camellia, that dealt with adult themes that I read as a kid that I thought were, that increase my knowledge, and my parents did not like me reading Stephen King books. And, maybe you shouldn't be reading Stephen King books as a kid, but it was reading those books, those Stephen King books, that really engendered my love of reading, right? It was, that really got me into literature, that it made me so, my ACT scores were on English and on reading comprehension were off the charts, largely because when I was a kid, I was reading Stephen King's It, which I think I read twice. It's an over 1,000-page book. And in it describes, scenes of rape and all kinds of weird, creepy stuff. But it didn't screw me up. It didn't, the worst fears weren't realized. When I was a kid, my dad was terrified that I was going to turn into a bad kid. But I mean, like, to me, I just feel like when it comes to books and explicit material in books, that, like, if kids want to read, and this was kind of what my parents finally, they couldn't stop me from reading the books because I would just read so much. I was reading all the time. They were just like, if he's that in love with reading, you ought to let him just do it, and you ought to parent. Parenting isn't necessarily, I feel like, denying access to reading materials as much as it is sort of giving kids context for the reading materials. But I mean, my parents couldn't keep up with what I was reading, and there was no way that they would be able to, and I was getting it from public libraries, and there were no restrictions. As a matter of fact, when I was a kid, in elementary school, they did have sections for age appropriate material in the school library, the public school library that I was in. But because I was such a voracious reader, I got an exception to go and to read, like, the older kids' books, and there were Stephen King books. There were things in that elementary school library in Raymore, elementary school, that I feel like today that like the parents who are on the anti-woke crusade, which, I think is justified in many ways, would probably not want to have in elementary schools. But I read them, and, maybe I'm not the best example because maybe I'm kind of screwed up, but that depends on your point of view. But can you kind of see what I'm saying here on this one is like, you shouldn't police the books. Maybe you should offer context.
Sure. And I agree with that to a certain extent. And it was the same for me. I mean, my experience was basically the same as yours. And so the thing is that I think that it's not so much a matter of whether or not they are there in the library. I think it's a pretty reasonable ask that, we do set some kind of a line for certain types of content in certain sections, because kids can go into any section of the library. It's not like there's this, this wall or this, you've got to have a code to get into the adult section or something. Will they be able to check them out on their own to take them home? Maybe not. Can they go in there and look at the books? And most of the time, the requests that parents are making in these public libraries for books that have this kind of content are just moving those books into like the teen section. That's what I most commonly hear, is get them out of the section where, someone was telling me the other day, they're in the library and somebody had told them about this book, and this is over in Cass County, actually. And they'd been hearing about this book over and over again and thought, nah, but sure enough, went to look for it. And it was right there, like at eye level for his 5-year-old in the little children's section. So, I think we do have to have some lines, and that we can do that without completely policing all books.
There you go. Well, okay. So I do the devil's work pro bono on Devil's Advocate there. Camellia Peterson, editor of the libertarianrepublic.com. This is a surprisingly compelling topic. Really good subject. Thanks so much for joining us today on the program.
Have a great day and safe travels.
Yeah, thank you very much. Safe travels. That's right. That's why the show is ending a little bit early today. It's going to end at 8:30 because I got to go catch a plane, because I'm going to be on Timcast tomorrow night. But you still get your show tomorrow. So don't worry. You're going to get You're going to get a show tomorrow morning, and it will be at the regular scheduled time. It just won't be live. It's a pre-record, some of the best of, so you still get to enjoy that. And when I get back, I've got a picture of men on their knees crying in front of women. It's the weirdest crap you have ever seen. I'm going to share that with you in some of the funny responses. This is a no simp zone right here. We don't bow down to the cult of the golden vagina. We'll be back with more on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Wife. I want to thank you all for watching the Wake Up America Show with Austin Petersen. This show has been a huge venture for our family, so we would love it if you could join us.
I believe in liberty, and I believe in Austin's ability to spread the ideas of liberty. Do you? I want to ask you today to join Petersen's Patriots with a pledge of $17.76 a month. Help us to stay cancel-proof so we can spread the message of limited government across the country. I joined Petersen's Patriots myself, just in a little different way. Visit wakeupamericashow.com/support and make your pledge today.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion, delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table, or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
Speaker Pelosi's husband Paul made a big investment in chips just before Congress votes on a bill that would give $52 billion in subsidies and tax credits to the chip industry.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information he received from you? No.
And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back. Do not come. Do not come.
Have you ever received a royalty payment from a company that you later oversaw money going to that company?
You know, I don't know as a fact, but I doubt it.
Well, here's the thing is, why don't you let us know?
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. It's 8:23, and you're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. All right, last segment before I go. Get on a jet plane and head to Washington, D.C. for my appearance on Tim Pool tomorrow night. I hope you'll join the show over there tomorrow night and throw out your support for AP. You show up in the YouTube comments and say, thanks so much for having Austin on the show. The more support, the better. So hopefully they'll continue to have me back. This will be my second appearance on Timcast, and I'm just really grateful to have that opportunity. It helps to grow my show, and I'll give a shout out to the Cantina crew, so you don't want to miss that, of course. All right, so before I go, I saw this. This is definitely some Twitter weirdness. I posted this yesterday. Take a look at this picture. This is a post that I picked up from a friend of mine on Instagram, Evelyn Ray Groton, and I was like, what the hell is this? What is going on here? What are we looking at? And if you're just listening to this versus watching it, then I'll just describe this as a line of women. It's some kind of weird ritual. They're standing outside, and then there's a bunch of men. You can see their asses in the air, and the men are like kissing the feet. It's the simpiest thing I have ever seen in my life. So I reached out to Evelyn to ask her what was the origin of this picture? Why are they doing this? Why are these men like bowing down at this feet and these crying women? I'm looking at this, and here's what it is. So what we're seeing here apparently is a ceremony that's being performed. It's a little complicated, but apparently the ceremony is centered around the feminine and the masculine. So according to the synopsis of this particular practice of bowing to women is to, quote, guide us through a process where the men will bow at the feet of the women present. We bow for the thousands of years of disrespect and oppression of the feminine. We bow for our own unconscious participation in a system which has advantaged men. We bow for our own lapses and failure to acknowledge the divine feminine within and without.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your
So, of course, I had to post yesterday, caption this, and ask people to caption what they said. Steffi, my beautiful wife, says, this must be an incel convention. I like that one. Jim Stalker says, guys, so pathetically beta, they won't even be given friend zone status. Rare Camellia says, this isn't a caption, but what the hell? He's holding her foot and she's crying. It's a really bizarre photo. Men are saying, I'll do anything to get lucky. Somebody says, PU55Y whipped. Yes, I think we know what we're talking about. So Talk Liberty says they're one rung lower on the hierarchy than libertarians trying to get laid. That's hilarious. Chris Sanger says, thank you, O God of farts. We honor you with our daily sacrifice. Another one, Allison Nas said, men teach your sons not to be like this. Amen. Thank you very much. Women mourn the death of the man. Yes, very much so. Cucks Anonymous says, Ben Kook over on Twitter. And How to Stay a Virgin says Jim Jam. How to ensure you will live a life of celibacy. Very good. Finally, men learn their place, says Skippy. Guy Foe says Lilith Fair became a somber affair when the music was no longer the main attraction. Low Testosterone says other person. Toe Fetish Festival 2022 says the Liberty Curious Man. Another one says you can really taste the ignorance. Yes, very good. Major League Liberty over on Twitter says, I see a lot of man cards that need to be handed over. Sleep is not an issue over on Twitter says this is Mighty Morphin Feminist Ragers. Not rangers, but ragers, begging for just a crumb of vagina. May I please have a crumb of vagina, sir? Please, miss, love me, love me. All right, I gotta go. Cuckolds, says Jenny Robinson. All right, that's it. That's enough show for you today. You know, when you put someone on a pedestal, all you're doing is helping them to look down on you. What do you think of that? All right. You will have a show tomorrow morning, so watch it. And it's Facebook Friday, so everybody go to Facebook and watch the show. If I'm able to, I will also hop in the chat and comment with you. It's just going to be a little bit crazy the next couple of days. And please, please, please join us over on Timcast tomorrow night on Tim Pool's show and comment how glad you are that they had me on the program, because that kind of support really helps. I appreciate you very much. Thanks so much for watching the Wake Up America show. We'll be live again on Monday at the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
It's morning again in America. Our country is prouder and stronger and better.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Your printing company stinks. They charge you too much money and they don't love America enough. We've got the solution. Patriot Printing USA. Whether you're running for office, saving souls, or just need business cards that will get you the new job you've been looking for, Patriot Printing USA has got you covered with the best prices around. Palm cards, brochures, bumper stickers, door hangers, you name it, we've got it. PatriotPrintingUSA.com. That's PatriotPrintingUSA.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.